I'm Cass, and if you clicked on this video, I'm assuming you want to know how to annotate, and I am here to teach you that. And I'm just going to jump right in by saying that it took me the longest time to start annotating my books because I was terrified of wanting to write in them. I did not want to ruin any copies. And so my first tip to you is if you are scared to write in books, one, you can actually use Post-it notes. So I have a few different types of Post-it notes here. I just have a little tiny one for just small notes I want to write. I have a normal Post-it note size, and then I have one with like a cute little cat design on it. Doesn't really matter what the Post-it notes look like as long as they can stick into the pages, because that way if you ever decide that you want to sell the book or donate the book, your notes aren't in the book and you can just flip through and peel them out. Now, another strategy is what I did for my first ever annotation was I bought an extra copy of a book that I already had used. So the first book I ever annotated was Ranger's Apprentice, Ruins of Gorlon. It was book 1, and I was terrified to write in my first ever copy. So I bought one at a used bookstore for like $4, and I told myself that's the book I can write in. It really helped kind of get over that mental barrier and the kind of social stigma around writing in books, because a lot of us grow up thinking that, books are, I want to say sacred per se, because I never wanted to deface a book. Now I'm like, write in the book, put all the tabs you want in it. It's your book. But I totally understand the fear. I still have that fear to this day. Brand new hardcover books, I cannot annotate. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. I wanted to annotate Crescent City so bad, but every time I was reminded that it was like $25 for that book, I didn't really feel like annotating. Another strategy you can use if, say, you're borrowing the book from the library is you can have a separate journal for writing notes and annotations. So just write down the quote and then your thoughts on it. Something I did a lot too, because I'm lazy and I didn't want to do it physically, was I would take pictures of the pages on Snapchat and then underline different things. Another tip that I think is helpful is to not start annotating a book straight away. So for example, with The Kiss Quotient, I had absolutely no intentions of annotating this book, but then clearly you can see that I went ahead and did quite a bit of annotating. That way I'm not just starting to annotate and then realize, oh, I don't really like the book, and now I'm stuck with said book because I've marked it up already. Another book I did this with, I wasn't planning on annotating like at all, and that was Red, White, and Royal Blue, and then I read a few pages in, maybe a chapter, and then went back and annotated it because I realized that I was definitely going to love this book. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty details about supplies and different techniques you can use to annotate, I just want to say that every person annotates differently, and there is absolutely no wrong way to annotate. Sometimes I feel like there is a stigma around annotating, especially since I first learned what annotating was in school, and it was to write notes off to the side, but they were supposed to be smart notes so they could help you. However, sometimes that doesn't go to plan. I think the biggest example of a book that I wanted to annotate heavily was The Fifth Season, and then I spent most of the book confused, and most of these tabs are just questions that I was just confused about, and that's totally okay. And sometimes you can start annotating a book and then get so invested into the story that you forget to continue annotating, and that's totally fine. You don't have to go back and catch up on annotations or anything like that. Just do whatever you want. Like, there is no right or wrong way to annotate. First, I wanted to preface this section by saying you do not have to have the exact same supplies as me. If you have a pen and you have a book you are reading, you can annotate it. Tabs are just bonus, highlighters are just bonus, and there is no wrong way to annotate. I'm going to continue saying that until the message really comes through to you. So, this is my annotating pencil case. It is a cute little carton of milk. I love it. So within this pencil case, I have a ruler in case I feel like I want my books to have straight lines when I underline things. I'm gonna be honest, I rarely ever use this ruler anymore because typically when I'm reading, I am so into the book and I might come to a section that I really like and I'll just quickly underline it, stick a tab on there, and move on because I want to keep going within the story. And pulling out the ruler, making sure my lines are all straight, it takes me out of the story a little bit, so I don't typically use the ruler, but I have it just in case I feel like I want to. Next are my pens. Now, the two pens that I primarily use is a cheap Bic pen. I love these things. I swore by these throughout high school, and I use them for a lot of my annotating. Now, this isn't a gel pen, so it doesn't bleed through the pages as bad. So if you're annotating a book that has Bible pages or is a mass market paperback, then I definitely recommend just using a cheapy pen that's not a gel pen because it doesn't typically bleed through. And then the other one is a Pilot G2 in the size of 07. Now, Pilot pens are well known. I feel like in the book community, everybody loves these pens, and actually, Red, White, and Royal Blue was the first book I've used this pen in, and I love it. It does have a bit of ghosting on the other side of the pages, but I don't really mind. It doesn't bother me as well, but if ghosting or bleeding will bother you, I definitely recommend just a cheapy Bic pen or just a cheap pen that isn't exactly a gel pen, because once again, they shouldn't bleed through. Next are the highlighters. Now, I don't always use highlighters during my annotations. Sometimes I'll just use a pen if I'm on the go, and then have some tabs with me and simply just tab it per color. But then sometimes I do like to get a little bit spicy and add some color to my book just to highlight quotes and do little doodles and such. Now, the highlighters that I use are the Zebra Mildliners. These I have sworn by for a very long time as well. Zebra Mildliners have so many options of colors, and they just keep coming out with more and more. So it really allows you to pick a color palette that also correlates with your tabs if you'd like. If you have different color tabs, that might not be like the standard color palette. I feel like Zebra Mildliners are a good deal. Plus, I personally like the more muted and pastel type tones instead of a neon highlighter. But again, cheap highlighters do the job exactly the same. But since I'm an artist and I bullet journal and I color things, I actually already had these highlighters before I even started using them for annotating. Tabs are the next object, and I have kind of a lot of them. For someone who just started annotating, I just fell in love with the different color palettes, and Daiso has some super duper cheap ones, which is where I get most of my tabs from. They're just so pretty and so cute, and they are slightly transparent, which is really helpful. However, I have used these just basic post-it note tabs before, and then I also have the post-it note brand of just clear tabs. And I also have a few like fun ones that I haven't used yet. One of them is dinosaurs and the other one is Harry Potter related. So if I ever decide to annotate Harry Potter, you know, I got tabs for that. So that's going to be it for the supply portion. And now on to the different methods of annotating. Once again, there is absolutely no right or wrong way to annotate. You just have to find a system that works for you. And the only way to find that system is by starting to annotate. The first book I ever annotated, like I mentioned earlier, was Ranger's Apprentice. Now for this, I simply just highlighted or underlined things primarily, and I have a tab system. I don't know, I have to find if I wrote what my tab system was when I first started tabbing, because typically I would write it at the very beginning and have the tabs that correlate to each color, but for some reason I didn't. But I primarily highlighted, stuck in a few tabs, wrote just a minimal amount of notes, and that was a simple way to annotate and to welcome me into the world of annotating. Next, we have The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a chunky boy, and this is also a mass market paperback, which are an absolute bitch to annotate. If you've annotated before, you know what I mean. I can't peel the tabs off once I stick them down because they will literally lift the ink off the page, which doesn't typically happen, but with mass market, it does, and it's kind of annoying. This book I used no highlighters with because, like I mentioned earlier, with the thin pages, I didn't want them bleeding through. So instead, I primarily just underlined things and wrote different notes. Again, the tabbing system I think I have on a separate piece of paper for some reason. I don't know why I did that, but I did. Another method I used was in the 5th season, which was mostly just highlighting, and I did actually include a lot more sticky notes, which I could have just wrote my notes on the page, but I added a few sticky notes, a few just little marks here and there that I didn't even tab, just to clarify things as I went. And again, This book didn't exactly get annotated exactly how I would have wanted it, but I used the clear tabs that I got, the Post-it brand, and they worked out really well. Another book that I annotated that's actually really ugly, I hate how these tabs look, but it's also satisfying to see so many tabs, and that's The Devil Wears Prada. I wanted to annotate this because the movie adaptation is my favorite movie ever, and I kind of forced myself to annotate this. This isn't typically a book I would have wanted to annotate. I used a mixture of highlighters and underlining things, but it just wasn't a good book. And so I really wouldn't have continued annotating it had it not been The Devil Wears Prada. Next is the Kiss Quotient, and for this I used solid tabs and I just underlined things, and I did actually use a ruler when I underlined things. For whatever reason, I wanted my lines straight in this book. I know a lot of people have a system where they annotate for environments and world building, and I think that's useful, but I just don't care about that. Typically, when I annotate books, I will just annotate the sections that I want to, which are typically quotes I love or just funny moments between characters or cute little romance moments if I'm reading romance. But this was a super simple annotation. I just had love, sad/angry, funny, and notes. And that was it. 4 tabs for this entire book, and it worked out. I found the piece of paper I was talking about earlier. I have love, angry, shock, building, world building that is, funny, and sad. And typically I don't differentiate between tabs these days about things that make me angry and things that make me sad, because for the most part I don't want to annotate moments like that because I don't want to look back and read a section of a book that just made me angry. Sometimes I like going back on sections that made me sad, but for the most part I don't. However, if I do, I will have them as angry/sad. Love is tricky because I annotate parts I love and then parts where there is romance in the book. So these get meshed together, but typically when I highlight romance parts, it's parts that I like. World building, I no longer annotate at all. I don't care unless it's a very pretty description, and then I'll just tab it under general notes instead of world building. Shock I do have, but typically I don't write down shock unless I am reading the book and I have something that happens that is shocking to me, and then I add the tab of shock. But I'm not typically gasping out loud or in shock with a lot of books I read. In fact, I'm nearly done with Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I've had 1 shock tab, and then everything else, I'm just like, it's a fun time. I'm really enjoying this book, by the way, and I should shut up about it, but I probably won't. I definitely recommend writing your key in your book. When I first started, I didn't. I don't know why, but having it in your book makes it really handy because if you change your annotating system, then it's just already written in the front of your book as a key, and you can know what tabs you used that meant what. Because I have changed what different colors mean, and sometimes going back and looking at these books, I don't remember what each color is off the top of my head, but then I can refer to the key and know. But that is it for this annotation video. I really hope I was able to help you come up with your own ideas of how you want to annotate. I think annotating isn't supposed to be some big daunting task. It's just supposed to be fun. In fact, I originally started annotating simply because I wanted to keep track of my favorite quotes in series, and then I gradually wanted to add my own notes. So just have fun with it, and the only way to, I guess, get good at annotating and find a system that works for you is to annotate. You're going to annotate a book, and it's going to be bad, and you're going to look back, and you're going to wonder why you annotated like that. But as you practice, you will get better. Trust me, I was so lost when it came to annotating, so I hope this was able to provide you with a more relaxed and casual type of annotating, because there's no need for 27 tabs and 27 colors and all these supplies, a pen, and some tabs, and the book you're reading. That is all you need, and hopefully, yeah, I was able to help you out. If you want to see more journaling or bookish content, please do consider subscribing if you'd like. Like the video if you found it helpful, and comment down below and let me know if I inspired you to start annotating, or if this video was helpful at all. Hopefully I didn't ramble on for too long about different things, but yeah, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I really hope to see you in my next one. Toodles!